couple of moments of genius, and of course one of them coming from their teenage prodigy.
The first half from Barcelona wasn't great, and I think some of what was going on around the stadium affected the whole feel of the match, and Espanyol benefited from that, and Barcelona just slowed down their possession. And so, who do you turn to in Barcelona when you need that difference-making moment? And in the past, it would have been Lewandowski. Maybe you could actually look at a guy like Rafinha, and maybe he's able to do something himself. But there's only one name in Barcelona of a player who can, by himself, create a chance and score a goal in the manner in which he did, and that's Lamine Yamal. And he has been that guy for Barcelona throughout the course of the season, but I would take it as far back as last year. Lamine Yamal started turning the corner, and we saw some of that in the Euros as well. And then the projection of his career all of a sudden is in an upward trending direction, and he just felt like he was about to explode. And explode he did. And today's goal was a good example of that. Takes it to the inside. Everybody knows that he's going to the inside. Everybody knows that he's going to look for his left foot, and still he's unstoppable. And still he finds side netting. Still he scores a great goal.
And the league is the ultimate definition of a champion, Shaq. Obviously, Champions League, one-off games. You know, maybe you can get through thanks to a decision, thanks to a bit of brilliance. But over 38 matches this season, Barcelona have been the better side.
Without question, and started this season so well. Listen, given everything we saw in the off-season, particularly with Real Madrid, if you said to Barcelona fans, you win a league title at the end of this season, but maybe that's it, they absolutely take it. If you had that conversation with Barcelona fans at the midway point of this domestic season, 19 games, Barcelona were 5 points behind Real Madrid. Again, they would have taken it. I don't think anybody saw this second half of the season coming from Real Madrid. And to Ali's point, the emergence of Lamine Yamal as that player for Barcelona, that player that can carry this great club on his shoulders. We knew he was talented. But at 17, you wondered if he was the player that could carry this franchise to glory. And again, you saw it in full evidence today. We are now gone well past the conversations around Lamine Yamal's importance to Barcelona, and it's firmly in the camp of, is he the best player on the planet right now? All evidence points to yes.
And it's easy to root for Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, that's it as well, isn't it? Like any sports, to see a teenage prodigy come through and take the world by storm as he has, as you say, you love it. How can you not love it?
Absolutely. And we always have conversations about Barcelona in the context as to what's going on at Real Madrid. And as talented as, say, Vini Jr. could be, it's not as easy to root for Vini Jr. It's not as easy to get behind him because he doesn't allow it to happen naturally. Whereas a guy like Lamine Yamal, he gets on the ball, he has a smile on his face. Every time you talk to him, it's something positive, it's something that you can build on, and you get excited about the player. And then you put a ball on his foot, and then you know something is about to happen. There is this quality about Lamine Yamal that is so likable, genuine.
And you don't like many people.
I barely like people at all. But I like Lamine Yamal. And it's hard not to. You have to try hard to find something about Lamine Yamal that you don't like. Outside of the choices that he has made in terms of his hair color, there is everything to love about Lamine Yamal. There is, again, his game is one thing, but it's the full package of Lamine Yamal that you can get behind, and you can get excited about the fact that he's 17 and there's going to be a whole lot more Lamine Yamal. The thought of him actually getting better is really, really scary.
And that's part of the big challenge. But challenge is the wrong word, around Lamine Yamal. You see him play, and his game is as mature, as polished, as complete as anybody else, as I mentioned on the planet. But then you see him off the park, and you're reminded that he's a teenager. The blonde hair, the braces. and that's kind of, no, that's to your point. He's a teenager, yet nothing on the park makes you think that.
He also hasn't been jaded. He hasn't been. The game hasn't taken away from him.
Yeah.
The fans or the pressures of the game or the pressures of the business of the game hasn't taken that love of the game away from him. And it's easy to see when you watch him play that he looks as if he is out in the park with friends. It just happens that this park holds 60,000 people, and all the eyes of the world are on him, and he doesn't seem to mind.
Let's go pitch side, shall we? Luis and Sid are with us. They've been following everything that's been going on today. Boys, am I right in thinking that is it for celebrations now?
Well, we think so. we think so because obviously
we can't see them.
There was a bit of confrontation on the pitch, not very much of one, but a little bit of confrontation on the pitch. They got off pretty quickly. They're very well aware, of course, of what happened a couple of years ago. So there will be celebrations tomorrow on an open-top bus, but we think that's the end of it here at Cornellà.
Yeah, Luis, that seems to make sense. Does it kind of dilute the celebrations a little bit for the players?
Yeah, I tried to jump on the bouncing group that they were there, but they were not in the pitch for a long time. The water started going all around. They celebrated a little bit, but I think that everyone was in the same page. They wanted to go inside, not make a little bit more of a mess. There were sounds of some of the supporters jumping into the pitch. We saw the police just moving around. So I think the idea was to continue the celebration inside the dressing room. Probably there will be a big party tonight with all the players. And tomorrow, as Sid just mentioned, the parade around the city. So looking forward to see that, but we couldn't see much today.
Sid, how many times has Luis mentioned that he was the only one in the world that tipped Barcelona to win La Liga?
Do you know what? To be fair to Luis, the only person who's mentioned that so far is me. I was just thinking, by the way, does on the bus tomorrow, does Lamine Yamal get like a reduced fare for still being a kid? I mean, does he pay less than everyone else to get on board?
Yeah, Lewandowski gets the pensioner fee. Lamine Yamal gets a teenage fee.
Well, I mean, actually, Wojciech Szczesny really could do, because I think, let me just pick up on this, by the way. This season started, and I am not making this up, with Wojciech Szczesny sitting on the beach in Marbella, lighting up a cigarette. That's how this season started. It ends with him on the pitch here, a double winner. He is 17 years, 2 months older than Lamine Yamal. He was called out of retirement for one last job, and what a job it's been.
It just shows that goalkeeper's fitness really isn't that important, chap.
Fittest players on the park, quite clearly. We're fit even when we're on the beach.
Luis, it's interesting. We talked at length, didn't we, during the summer, about the task in hand that Hansi Flick had to address. So much going on within the squad, so much going on outside as well with the financial issues as well. And we thought, well, Xavi couldn't do it. Someone who has got Barcelona DNA running through his whole body. How is Hansi Flick going to get something out of this side? He's going to get a tune from this team. I don't think there's any sort of way in which we can not give Flick his flowers today for what he's done over the last 10 months.
And totally agree 100% with you, Dan. I think that we've been praising a lot to Lamine Yamal. He's done an amazing job during the whole season because of his ability, his creativity. Pedri has become a massive and important key player in the middle of the park. Frankly, a young resurrection once again to the first team. But we've been talking a lot about some of the players. Lewandowski, of course, one of the top scorers of the season. But we haven't praised enough to Hansi Flick and his style of play. That sometimes you might agree with him. It's a little bit risky with that high line, with that intensity. But as you just mentioned, we never expected this team to perform the way that they did. Not only because in the beginning of the season they just surprised us. We saw a fantastic Barcelona scoring goals, being really, really aggressive going forward. But that low in the middle of the season, we thought, we knew that in the end they couldn't manage to get the consistency. And it hasn't been like this. They kind of reacted. The mentality of this team has been shown not only today or the game against Real Madrid, against Inter the Milan in the Champions League. We saw that it wasn't enough because they were exposed and they considered just too much, as it happened many times during the season. But that mentality of react, even though in the bad moments, I think that's what this team is all about. So a lot of things to improve, a big room to improve as well, because it's a very young talent team. But definitely we have to give so much credit to Hansi Flick. It's a style of play and the idea they just brought to Barcelona.
It might be worth adding something there, Dan, very briefly. And Luis is talking about what happened in Milan. And obviously this is a young team that can improve and that can learn. I don't know how much you noticed that in the 93rd minute, Lamine Yamal has a chance to run up the right wing. He's got a chance to go into the area and score. And he goes to the corner. And I am absolutely sure that Milan was on his mind at that point, that he's thinking, you know what? let's kill this. He went into the corner, he played a 1-2 with Pedri, they tried to keep the ball. Of course, then Fermin went and ruined it all for us by the next time they did attack, he thought, actually, no, I will shoot. And he scored. So it's okay.
What's interesting, I just want to go back to Hansi Flick, Ali. You must have been in locker rooms. Yeah. Now, look, Hansi Flick is no rookie. Had massive success, obviously, in Germany with Bayern. Yet you've got somebody coming in after Xavi, who knew everything there is to know about Barcelona, doesn't even speak the language, doesn't have the connection with the club, has this idea that he wants to play this high line, but everybody is on board with it and seems to be on board with it really, really quickly. And that's got to be testament to his managerial skills, isn't it?
And what we thought would be a problem from Hansi Flick, the fact that, well, there's no Barcelona history in him.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak the language. How is he going to get his ideas across? Perhaps the fact that he's coming from the outside was a good thing for Hansi Flick. That he was not burdened by the story or by the history of the club and the history of former players at the club. That he comes in and says, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want my players to do, and this is how we're going to do it. I have to imagine that the messages were very clear from the very beginning, very straightforward. And he said, yes, we're going to play with a high line, and the players went, huh? What? What do you mean? Yes, this is how we're going to play, and we're not going to change. There is no flexibility here. This is who we are, and we're going to press the ball together, and we're going to work for each other. The best thing that Hansi Flick did this year, outside of the fact that when he came in, he must have been very clear with his players, is when the roof was caving in, when the house was collapsing towards the end of December, and it felt like everything was getting away from Barcelona, and it felt like Real Madrid was getting control of La Liga, Hansi Flick stayed calmer than everybody else. Consistent. The message was consistent. The way that he talked to his players and about his players was consistent. There was no panic. And you could not have blamed him if indeed he had panic. Because what was once in control during the season, all of a sudden was all lost. And Real Madrid seemed to have all the momentum. And Barcelona, since the start of 2025, have been lights out. Whereas Real Madrid have had all sorts of issues with lack of consistency, there's been a consistency about Barcelona and what they have been. And you're not just consistent just because you show up and you play the same way. You're consistent because the messaging coming from the top is also consistent. It's also very sort of even. We're never getting too high. We're never getting too low. People think that that's not important. It is important. It counts. And it counts the most when things are going the wrong way. Because you look at your manager, and if he's freaking out, then the players are going to be freaking out. That didn't happen with Barcelona with Hansi Flick. And that, I think, was the difference for him in this season. Early part was going to be important. But being able to maintain a level of consistency in the way that he managed, I think translated into consistent results from this team in the second half of the season.
Shaka, you must have been in locker rooms where a new manager comes in with a new idea and people start whispering already. Like Stevie talks about first impression, how important that is, somebody new coming into the changing room. So not only do you have this foreigner coming in with this foreign idea of trying to play something completely different, but you get everybody on the same page.
It's hard almost to understand or to explain, in all honesty, because, well, it's great and probably easy to do that once, if you get off to a good start, get good results, which Barcelona did, but then, as Ali mentioned, things started to cave slightly. And that's when the issues arise. When results aren't going quite your way, when you see Real Madrid putting a little bit of distance between themselves and you, even though Real themselves aren't playing quite well, that's when you start to question the manager's methodologies, the messaging, what are we doing? But to Ali's point, and I have to say, I've never been in a dressing room that's kind of maintained that level of calm while chasing, as Barcelona were. And let's be honest, Barcelona and Real Madrid are judged on one level, and that's what the other is doing, or what you're doing as compared to the other. So when you're chasing Real Madrid as Barca were, and yet everything just stays calm, nobody seems to question what Hansi Flick is doing, that's difficult for me to explain, because that's when most players, that's when you see the clique start to develop. That's when you start having issues, but somehow Barcelona didn't. Now, who takes the credit for that, I am not sure, but that's something that is certainly foreign to me and the dressing rooms I've been a part of.
And he also must have been able to massage the board.
Oh, yeah.
To be able, because even Xavi, legend of the club, was pushed out in the end because he said, well, you know, we got to be realistic about our expectations. And Laporta didn't like it.
No.
The board didn't like it. And I said, no. We're not going to accept this, even though we haven't done our job as a board, even though we're still having to have players injured so that we can be able to register this other player on the other side. And that's what happened this early on this season. Christensen had to be injured in order to register Dani Olmo. These are the sort of things that Barcelona and Hansi Flick was dealing with at the beginning of the season. And yet, you never heard from Laporta talking about Hansi Flick other than in a positive spin, in a positive image. I have to imagine that the way that he handled the board and that communication is also part of what makes this a huge coaching job by Hansi Flick and an outstanding coaching job. It's not just what he did on the field. It's not just what he did in the locker room. It's also what he did in keeping people and pressures coming from above outside of the team, off the team, separated from the team. Allow me to coach this team. I'll deal with you, and we're all going to be happy.
Luis, does it help that it's a younger squad when you've got a manager asking you for these sort of things?
Yeah, I think so, Dan. I think in the end, when you got a young team that lack of experience and is eager to win trophies and to learn and to find a way of being successful, of course, they're going to be more able. When you start with the rotation, when you start, let's not forget, Gavi started with Xavi as one of the main players. Casado started as one of the main players who have been involved for quite a long time with this first team. Suddenly, they were relegated to wait for their opportunities. I'm not even calling to Ansu Fati, that arrived once again back to Barcelona with the options to play a lot of minutes, and he has to wait for their options. And all of them, every single time that they've been involved or they've been asked, they gave 120%, knowing the opportunities will be there and you have to get them. That only happens when you have a young team. You got 2-3 more experienced players. They start not liking to being on the bench and waiting for the opportunity. And when the opportunity arrives, it's not working. You got a rotten apple, and then start getting worse and worse. And I think that because they are young, because they are all willing to do whatever this manager is telling them to do, it's going to help a lot. Of course, results were there, so they are all backing up the result, backing up to the manager. But it was a lot easier to manage this dressing room instead of having 2, 3, 4 players who, with a little bit of ego, could have put this fantastic, successful year in danger.
There's an interesting little element here as well that's worth picking up on. We're talking about the young players and Hansi Flick's ability to get through to them. And you're talking about older players who've won it all, who can sometimes be problematic. Well, Barcelona have one very obvious example of that, and that's Robert Lewandowski. And, of course, Hansi Flick is the coach that got the best ever seasons out of Robert Lewandowski. Hansi Flick is the coach that says to Laporta, I can get the best out of him again. He can play well again. At a time when Xavi is saying to the club, I'm not sure about this guy. Maybe we move this guy on. So there's this kind of quite nice little contradiction there, which is you've got this manager that's partly succeeded because he's got so many young players eager to learn, eager to listen to him. But he's partly being brought in because he is telling you at board level, at presidential level, I can make this work with Robert Lewandowski. I can make sure that we don't need to move this guy on. I can make sure that it happens. And, of course, Lewandowski, not top scorer in La Liga because he's a couple behind Mbappe, but has had a brilliant goal-scoring season. There are still 1 or 2 doubts maybe about the press and some of the things that he does, but his relationship with Hansi Flick has been really good as well. So you've short-circuited, perhaps, the one player, you use the word rotten apple, the one player who potentially could have been that.
Sid, to one of my favourite subjects, do you think, in all honesty, it's helped Hansi Flick that he's only done interviews in English because that already puts the journalists on the back foot somewhat, so you're not getting into the details that we saw Xavi, of course, get caught in over the last 12 months of his tenure?
Yeah, I think the not speaking Spanish or Catalan part of it is quite interesting. I'm not 100% sure that I would see it in terms of him doing interviews in that language. I think I would take a step back a little bit and see it more in terms of him not being aware of what's been said around him, rather than not being aware of what's said to him, or maybe not able to put himself into trouble with the things that he said, just kind of not feeling that pressure that comes with being at this club and some of the noise. And Xavi, there's no doubt about it, was incredibly conscious of what was being said about him. I mean, entitled to be, by the way, and I can understand it on a human level. It seems to me to be completely normal. But Xavi didn't like that pressure at all. I'll give you a good example of this. It's a very, very famous moment after the Champions League game. I think it was against Napoli when they won. And he came into the press conference and he said, "Who's the buffoon of Europe now?" Now, that was about a match report that had been written by a very well-respected Catalan journalist in one of the broadsheet newspapers, not a troublemaker by any means, but that headline had really upset Xavi. And it had partly upset Xavi because it had come from a part of the media that he assumed would be on his side, that he assumed would support him, that understands what Barcelona is, that is in theory in line with his beliefs and his sentiment and his feelings towards the club, and he felt kind of let down. And I suspect that if that had happened to Hansi Flick, he just wouldn't even have known, let alone cared. And if you don't know, of course, you can't care, even if under other circumstances you would do.
Yeah, but I think that even though if you understand, because I can tell you that all the managers receive a report with everything that is happening and it's being said, is if he affects you. Yes. That's the big problem, because I think Hansi Flick, what he has done very well, and he has sent the message every single time that he's in a press conference, is the calmness. It's like, cool, we are all okay. We have injuries, there is no problem. It's sunny, it's okay. It's rainy, it's okay. We are not going to have these players, or we are not going to sign players. It's okay. Everything is okay as soon as we send the right message every single. That consistency and not being affected by whatever they say when this Barcelona had that low, where they were losing, when they were lost against Las Palmas, lost against Leganés, and he kept sending the same message. Even so, everyone wants against this high line. You have to change it. You have to switch the situation. He never changed that. And I think that that experience of don't be affected by whatever he's saying around you, I think it has helped him a lot to arrive to this point where Barcelona is strong, mentally very, very strong, and playing at the same style as the first game of the season.
Remember as well, Luis, you're talking about that period when they lost games. They lost 3 games in a row at home. Remember when that was? It's just before Christmas. Yep. And it just came up to Christmas. What else happened at Christmas? What else happened at Christmas was they had the problem with Dani Olmo's registration. Now, you're talking about the only player that Hansi Flick had asked the club to sign. And he finds himself in a position where this player can't be registered, where this player is annoyed, where Christensen's injury is the only reason that he's played, but now there's a risk that he might not play. Now, I know Barcelona won that battle in the end. And actually, Barcelona, in terms of managing the legal side of it, did a brilliant job. You could argue about the financial side of it, but they did that part really well. But at that point, Hansi Flick is thinking, the player I really wanted, the player that I thought would make a difference, the player that we got rid of Gundogan so that we could play him, can't play. And at that point, it would have been really, really easy, even if it was just a small comment, to have said something. Yeah. And he didn't.
I want to talk about another player, Ali. And what's interesting, I think, from an outside, Mullion under 11s, as much as I starred for that team.
Okay.
I think that there is a player on this side that you have to have played the game at a high level to really appreciate.
Okay.
And I think that's Pedri. Because I think he does something that every ex-pro that I speak to gets so emotional, gets so excited about talking to him, that maybe fans don't see as much of. Can you kind of fill in the gaps there?
The reason that the fans may not understand how critical to the success of Barcelona Pedri is because he makes it look so simple, so easy. So what he's doing seems like it's normal, right? That I'm able to get this touch away from this pressure, and I already know where the next pass is going to go. He makes it look easy. The difference is that it's not easy. It's not. It's not. To have a full picture, to understand where everybody is and should be on the field, to have that vision, you think about head on a swivel, and it's something that people would understand. He's able to have a full picture of what's in front of him, what's around him to the side, what's behind him. And that's why, when you talk about Pedri, one of the things that is most obvious to see for me is the spatial awareness. And knowing that my first touch is going to dictate where the next movement is going to go. And I already know, if I'm Pedri, I already know where I'm going. Even before these defenders are stepping to me, even as they start to sort of trying to crowd me out, I already know where my touch is going to go. I'm one step ahead of you. And he does that every single time he receives the ball. He seems to be just gliding on the field. He seems to be just playing at a slow jog. And yet, he gets away from people. And yet, he finds the next pass. The reason that people take it for granted is because it happens every game, every play of every game. And so if every touch seems to be the same by him and it's made to look so simple and so easy, then people just say, well,
Right.
everybody can do it. Not everybody can do it. That's what makes Pedri special.
Luis?
I'm going to give you an example that I think that you're going to understand very easily, Dan. You remember when we were at the Wanda Metropolitana and we were watching the game, and Sid Lowe's got his iPad where he's watching the game also, but he's 1 minute ahead, behind what we were watching. That's what Pedri is all about. While everybody is watching at Sid Lowe iPad, Pedri is playing the real game. He's go ahead of everything. He knows everything that is going to happen. The space time for him is just easy. He's at the right moment in the right space. What is needed in defense is going to be in defense. What is needed to slow down the game is going to slow it down. What is needed to speed it up is going to speed it up. If no one is making runs like it happened today in the first 45, he's the one that from the middle of the park is making the runs to create the space for Lewandowski, for Dani Olmo, for them to get the balls in those places. So that's Pedri all about. He doesn't lose the balls, he regains the balls, he assists, he can score, so he can do everything from the middle of the park. And now we can see a different Pedri with that consistency that he's been doing the whole season. No injuries for him, he can run all during the game, arriving to even 13 kilometers. That is wide miles away from everyone else, and is keeping the ball when it's more needed. Today, in the last part, and Sid just mentioned it, we remember all Inter de Milan the last 5-7 minutes. Today, he decided, together with Frankie de Jong, we're going to grab the ball and we are not going to lose it. We are going to just juggle around, playing around, trying to slow down the game because Espanyol is coming to get us and try to get the equalizer. Pedri has been the best midfielder in Europe, the best midfielder in the world, and I would love to see him very soon fighting for the Ballon d'Or.
One last thing I would say about Pedri, because my love for Pedri is deep. Deep, and I mean deep.
And there isn't much love for many.
There's not a lot of love to go around.
we continue the theme of today.
Not a lot of love to go around. And this is really for young players out there. How many times do you see Pedri doing a step over? How many times do you see him do some sort of fancy back heel or flick on or something that would be a highlight for most people? And yet, a lot of the time, he's still the best player on the field. If you know what you are as a player and you know what you do well and you're able to take that skill set to an elite level, you separate yourself from the rest. His reading of the game, his understanding of the game, and knowing where he needs to go with that first touch separates him from the rest without the need of a step over, without the need of, look at me, without the need of, look at what I'm doing here, look how fancy in there. No, there is efficiency and effectiveness to what he does with every move.
Away from Ali's real children questioning their father's love.
Yes.
Let's get some more reaction then, shall we? As we hear from Eric Garcia, who spoke to Gemma Soler.
Yes, with Eric Garcia, thanks for talking to ESPN. What a match, what a season. Congratulations, you are La Liga winners.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a tough game today. But yeah, we're really happy. I think we've done an amazing season. And at the end, we get the results. We are really happy. We've got a really good squad, and I think we've showed it through the whole season.
I don't know, you looked very uncomfortable in the first half. There was this incident, the game was stopped for a couple of minutes. What happened in that first half?
Well, I think we were a bit sloppy in possession, turning the ball over a lot. I think the best thing was the result, because we could have been down at the break. But then in the second half, we started to play better, and of course, an amazing goal from Lamine. And then being able to suffer, because of course they also play for being staying in the first league. So I think we've done it well, and of course then with the goal of Fermin was better.
You just mentioned that Lamine goal. We always ask you about Lamine, but what a perfect shot! He always surprises you, this kid.
Yeah, I mean, he trains it. He trains this type of shots. He's got it really well because Johan is a great keeper. So yeah, he's an amazing player. Sometimes you think he's not in the game because he's not touching the ball, but then suddenly he comes up and then he does these things which are amazing.
You are one of these academy players. I guess it's special somehow to win it on a Catalan derby, playing not like yesterday. So it feels special to win a Liga like this.
Yeah, of course. I think when you're young, when you're La Masia, the most important game of the season is when you play against Espanyol. You know, that's what you've been taught, and of course for the players that we've grown up here, it's really special. Yeah.
So Eric, you came back from a loan. There were not that much expectations about this team at the beginning of the season, but you managed to get the domestic treble. What have you done? What did Hansi Flick do with this team?
I think trusting each other. We've done an amazing season, you know, without having a lot of expectations. And then, you know, personally, I think we could have been in the Champions League final, but that's something for the next season for sure.
Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Ali is here, Xhaka as well. Lamine Yamal starred as Barcelona won La Liga today. A lot of questions about the youngsters, a lot of statements as well like this. The kid is the best in the world, right? If not, who could be better? Let's move on to the next question as well, because that's kind of all under the same umbrella. What else can Lamine do to win the Ballon d'Or? Xhaka. Lamine Yamal, best player in the world?
Yeah.
Should he get the Ballon d'Or?
Yes.
There we go. Xhaka Hislop has spoken, ladies and
Can
gentlemen.
I go home now?
Now, what about those who say, look at his stats, though? He hasn't got many goals, his assists. You know, someone like Mo Salah has got more compared to the youngster.
No, the totality of the game of Lamine Yamal has been outstanding over the course of the whole season. And if you think and look back at the time in which Barcelona was struggling this season, guess what? Guess who was not on the field? Lamine Yamal was not on the field. He makes this team go, and it's not just a nice piece to have. He is the angular piece in the attack for Barcelona. Everything positive in the attack for Barcelona usually starts with Lamine Yamal. The last time we were saying that about anybody in any team was Lionel Messi. That's the sort of level that Lamine Yamal aspires to be at, but that's where he's reaching.
Get ready for this, Shaq.
All right.
So you would have Lamine Yamal over Pedri?
Oh,
Wait.
God,
That's my.
Oh, man.
If I'm choosing,
Yes.
I'm building a team.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're having Thanksgiving dinner.
No, we
Thanksgiving
definitely
no, then Pedri. Pedri! Come on down. Come on down. Incidentally, I know people are
Gregory,
interested.
sit at the kids' table.
Hey, Alejandro, who we have talked about and has had some difficulties communicating with his family, he's coming home. He's coming home tomorrow, so that'd be fun. Maybe.
I don't know where we went with that.
talking about?
We've got to went off a little bit.
Well, I'm just saying he's coming home for summer.
Behind the scenes of Ali's broken family.
Yeah. No, wait. We're not
so
broken.
Lamine Yamal with
It is the
with the ball
nucleus of the family is
Alejandro's coming
intact. Alejandro's coming home. Pedri's coming home for
So
Thanksgiving.
Alejandro wasn't speaking to you? What was some communication issues? I missed
No. He was only calling home whenever he needed money, essentially.
Well, yes. That's how it works, isn't it? What about the chance?
I was hoping for love, for appreciation, for a connection to his family, more so than just asking for
How
money.
we go from Ballon d'Or to this?
I don't know.
Well, it's what I care about.
Hey, at least
Shaq.
it's better than just a Venmo request appearing.
Yes.
At least you got a call.
Yes. But he's coming home, and I'm happy, and the family's happy.
Pedri or Lamine Yamal?
Lamine Yamal.
Dembele, people would say, Xhaka?
I'm going Lamine. I'm still going Lamine.
Okay, question for Ali. What positions ideally should Barcelona look to strengthen ahead of next season?
You have to address the outside back position while Jules Koundé...
You need backup, don't you?
Yes, you need depth. You cannot be in a position in which whenever Alejandro Valde is unable to play, you are trotting out Gerard Martin or Eric Garcia. As good a job as they might have done, those are not the real solutions. Or Íñigo Martínez having to go and play left back, or Ronald Araujo having to play right back. You have to have something more about you in terms of the depth in those positions. I think you have to start addressing the possibility of center forward. You need to have the conversation about Lewandowski.
Does Ferran Torres...
Ferran Torres I think it's a nice piece to have, but I don't think he can be the guy over the course of 40 matches in the season. I just don't see that being the case, and I don't think his productivity would be at the level that is necessary. We assume that Lewandowski is going to keep scoring goals, but at some point, this is something that has to be addressed. I just don't know that the finances of Barcelona are in a position where they can actually make a big splash in that position.
I will be hearing from Lewandowski actually at the end of extra time. Not before, though. We asked Shaka, who was the more surprising league winner? Liverpool or Barcelona?
Jeez, that's a good question. I'm kind of leaning Barcelona just because of how good Real Madrid were last season. And they added Kylian Mbappe and kind of given a lot of the issues that we discussed coming out of last season and the financial issues. I'm kind of leaning Barcelona, but at the same time, I didn't think we'd be talking about Liverpool either.
Luis Garcia picked both, of course.
Did he?
Yeah.
Who did I pick? You remember?
I don't know, Shaq.
No, then I'm claiming I picked both.
You definitely didn't.
It's also,
until you prove me different, I'm claiming both.
I know that we're giving a lot of credit to Luis Garcia, and rightfully
Are you
so.
suggesting?
But maybe it's convenient that these are the teams that he played for, and that he would never pick Real Madrid
And
or
there's
never
some sort
would
of ambassadorial
I guess
link to that.
you know. How often do we see Luis doing shows from like he's in Singapore, he's in Hong Kong, he's here, there, and everywhere? And who are you doing that for, Luis? Liverpool. Oh, am I going to pick against Liverpool? No chance.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Both. Carry on.
But did you make a choice, by the way? Was it Barcelona or
Yeah, I
Liverpool?
said Barcelona. I said Barcelona.
Who is the manager of the year across Europe?
I would say Hansi Flick. And we have to be able to remember how much of a mess Barcelona was last summer. And that's just on the Barcelona side. But then thinking about as to where Real Madrid were at that moment and who was coming to Real Madrid. The decisions made by Hansi Flick in terms of the way that they were going to play, the consistency, the confidence with which he communicated this to the players, and the way that he handled the pressures of being a Barcelona manager, I thought he did something with this team that I don't think any of us thought possible, given where they were at the beginning of the summer.
I concur.
All right, perfect. Who will win the Champions League, Shaq?
PSG.
Because?
They're playing the better football right now.
Okay.
Simple as that.
PSG, and if PSG wins, does that mean that Ousmane Dembele?
Well, that's
Then let me take that back. Then Inter.
But then it's Lautaro Martinez.
No, I don't think Lautaro is quite at that level, and being a
The
front
comments,
runner.
the comment section.
I
disagree.
know. I know they're going to be.
South America, something going on there.
What a great question this is to end.
Okay.
If your child
Okay.
went through a rough breakup, which ESPN FC member do you think would give them the best advice? And who would give them the worst? Okay, let's start with the worst. Who would I want I wouldn't my child. I don't want Gab anywhere near the child because that'd just be terrible.
I'm going to say
Craig-
Jules gives the best advice.
Jules?
I'm going to go Jules.
No,
I'm not having any of y'all.
Whoa.
I'm not having anybody else.
Jules. He's too busy watching football.
What?
He hasn't got time to give advice.
By a
No, you're wrong.
By a matter of default.
No, you're absolutely wrong.
Nope.
So we've got Gab on the back on no. Craig definitely not.
Definitely not.
Not Ali
Nope.
either.
Wait.
Oh, no.
Why am I being discriminated against? Why am
You're
I?
not being
No,
discriminated
you're,
against.
no, yeah, but
You're
you
very
just-
much in the majority.
I believe this is an unfair
no, I
statement.
Yeah.
I would be.
Sort yourself out.
I would be caring,
Nope.
Get yourself-
thoughtful.
Nope.
No,
Nope. Nope.
no, I'm not having you at all.
Nope.
Anywhere, no. So you're there with Craig and Gab.
Yeah, yo. You wouldn't have.
I cannot believe you're putting me in the same category with Craig and
I'm-
Gab on anything.
Hey, I'm going to go K.
Oh, that's an
I'm going to
interesting
go
one.
K. I'm
Yeah.
K is my
That's true.
therapist.
That's true.
Yeah.
What about
Too
Dark?
positive.
Ian Dark to bring you a little bit of old school.
Yeah, I'm going-
Not Don. He'd go on about his divorce.
That
one.
Start talking about
Take all the money.
Got off a bicycle. And
Frank would make it about him.
yeah.
I think that'd be true. Stevie would be a good night out to go out with to kind of forget your worries.
Yes.
That's not the question, though. The question isn't who you drown your sorrows with.
Shaka, you've given good advice over the years to
I
different
am
people.
full of good advice, Dan.
Yeah, that's very.
A lot of experience. You've seen things, Jack.
I'm
You've
full
gone
of-
through
I am
things.
full of good advice.
Someone would. Jurgen would cheer you up. He's kind of got a cheery, he's got a cheery disposition. He'll take you out in the helicopter.
What's the problem?
He'll say, let's go for some coffee and I'll get you some cake as well. That'll cheer it up.
problem.
That's very good. But I don't know why you went straight to Jules. That's weird.
I'm going to go K.
What are we doing with Robbo? Is Robbo?
Robbo's on the bench with you.
Who's the worst?
You know,
Who's the worst?
Well, Robbo.
I tell you what, it's a good battle for worst.
Yeah, I know. Ali, Robbo, Craig, Gav.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
you don't know. You don't know how
We've got a deep bench.
thoughtful I can be with my children.
Where are we getting Nadem in all of this as well? It's quite deep.
Yeah.
Name's kind of middle ground.
Yeah, I think middle ground.
Mario.
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 Do you understand?
Do you understand?
Yeah.
No, I don't understand, but you're asking me.
You'd be like,
We need some help. Jan? Voice of experience.
Yeah, see, but things tend to go off the rails with Jan.
Yeah,
very
Jan
quickly.
we're taking a weird direction.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
So
that's fair.
who is the worst, though?
You're
No,
there.
you can't put him in that.
You, Robbo,
Honestly.
Robbo, Craig and Gav.
Okay. I'm a thoughtful parent.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yo.
Yeah.
But why? I would like to ask why. Why am I the worst? I would like an explanation for that.
Hold on. What was your New Year's resolution again?
To be more approachable.
By your own admission.
But that's
under
what-
no pressure.
That's
You
what
just-
people
You just
outside.
wake up January 1st.
It's like the circle of trust.
Right?
Outside of the circle of trust.
You just
which is
wake up January 1st
Admittedly, it's
and
very
decide,
small.
man, I need to be better.
All right.
more approachable.
Yeah.
There you go.
But by those outside of the
just you by
family
yourself.
nucleus.
That's just you by yourself.
Luis Garcia.
I think Luis gives that good advice.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll take it to watch Liverpool or Barcelona.
Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yes, he would.
Don't need to watch
For free.
anything else.
For free.
That is it. Thank you very much for that last question. Oh, we've got Robert Lewandowski now. Lewandowski, I reckon, will be in the Ali and Craig camp.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand why I'm being
Let's hear.
part
He
in
was
this
talking to
camp
Gemma
with
after
Craig.
the game.
That's unacceptable.
Well, Robert Lewandowski, congratulations on this win. What a roller coaster season. You begin winning La Liga, then you lose it November, December. Now back to the winning ways. What a roller coaster.
Yeah, that was still it's an amazing season. You know, with these young players that we have in the team, is like so many times we show it that it doesn't matter what kind of position we are or we were, that we can we have to push till the end and show our best performance. And yeah, I think in this team, how we were playing, you can, like the fans, I think they can fall in love, you know, because this kind of emotion, this kind of performance that we showed, that is something special. And of course, and now in the future in the football, it will be impossible to stay on the top all this season, because if you have so many games, that will be normally that you will be some kind of moment that you will be not on the top form, but because of this, you have to show it that sometimes you have to jump on it very, very fast and show what you have the best. And I think this season was amazing for us. We won titles, and I think that we can really enjoy what we did and looking in the future with the head up.
I guess it was important for the youngsters, the academy players, to win it here in the Catalan derby. I don't know if there were some nerves in the halftime because the goal was not arriving.
Yeah, we have, I think, two situations. The first half was like unlucky that we didn't score. That we know that this kind of game will be like very tough. That we know that maybe one goal can decide that we know this game. And of course, not always we can score 4 goals in the first half. On concede 2 goals and score 4 goals, but you know, especially if the opponent play very deep, that sometimes you have to be patient and try to find a solution and score the goal. So today we scored 2 goals, a beautiful goal from Lamine, and we know that okay, this 3 points is going to us, and we can celebrate, be the champions.
Maybe it's the most beautiful goal of Lamine, or maybe not, because in the training maybe he does more than the one we've seen today.
You know, sometimes the training doesn't works everything well, but in the game it's different. And today that was a really beautiful goal from Lamine. I already saw it in the warm-up. I think the same goals that he did. So yeah, he repeated the same in the game. So yeah, you know, this guy grew up very fast, and especially during this season, you know, and we see that his development is amazing, and yeah, even that he's 18 years old now. In the next few weeks, I think that mentality is already like 22, 23. So yeah, it's like. It's nice to be in this team and just to enjoy this moment.
It was your first start after the injury. How did you feel? And is it important for you to win the top scorer in the next 2 games, as you already win the title you wanted?
You know, now it's like the most important thing was that to win the titles with the team. You know, even that I win some kind of individual. If you don't win the titles with the team, it's something that you cannot enjoy, you cannot be happy. And for me, if you see that we won 3 titles and we were playing in semi-final, you know, even that I couldn't play in the semi-finals, but in the end, this is even more important. You know, always in the end, the people looking how many titles with the team you win, not individual, because it's not without the team you cannot win the titles.
And just the last one, thinking on the future, next season, you talk about semi-finals. Of course, the goal must be to play a final next season. I guess it's a very exciting opportunity for you.
We know that we have to prepare it well to the season. That is, the next season will be even tough than this season. We know it, but first we have to focus. We have still 2 games. We have to show our performance, even that we are already champions. That now more important will be mentality. Of course, it will be from one side very difficult to play on high level, but we're playing last game in our stadium, so we have to try, even that we are already champions. But in the end, you know, of course, sometimes after a good season, the next season will be even the bigger challenge for us, but we have to be ready for this.
Sorry, just one last about Tech. How important has been your fellow Polish man for this team for achieving this amazing success?
Yeah, he showed so many times in the games that he's like the goalkeeper to help us. Even that he was already on the vacation, retired the football, but you know. I think his performance on the pitch helped us a lot of times, and you know, if you have this kind of security behind, that always is better to play for the place on the pitch. And yeah, we are very happy to have him in the team, because you know, always the good players can help every team.
Congratulations! Enjoy the parade tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll show you pictures of that parade tomorrow. Kay's in the hot seat, joined by Kieran Gibbs is here, as is Craig and Frank, also to look ahead to the FA Cup final.